This week we celebrate the anniversary of Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger, which was the Super Sentai show that aired in Japan that was eventually turned over and changed, or I guess you can say adapted into Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 1. And had it not been for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 1, Power Rangers would never be where it's at today. That is the season that started everything, blew up in popularity on Fox Kids in the early 90s, and led to multiple seasons, multiple movies, tons of toys and video games being released. It was the beginning of a franchise. And one of the biggest franchises of all time. Power Rangers really... People gotta understand, and I know it's still around, but you gotta understand, when this thing first came out in the 90s, bro, it blew everybody by storm. It was the biggest thing. I mean, prior to Power Rangers, it was the Turtle Mania phase. We also had the Batman, Spider-Man animated series going on. Actually, Spider-Man was a little bit after Power Rangers, but X-Men was around during this time. X-Men was the biggest show on Fox Kids. Then Power Rangers comes along and just blows everybody out of the water. And there's been so many documentaries made about this, and it's surprising because then in the 2000s, I finally got internet access, and I grew up a little bit, and I found out that Power Rangers was indeed a show in Japan called Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger, and that Power Rangers or Super Sentai have been around since the 70s. So years went by, and I was able to actually download pirated, unsubbed episodes of Zyuranger when the internet became a bit more easier to do that with an old piece of software called IRC. This would have been way back in the early 2000s. And I was able to watch the Japanese Sentai as they aired unsubbed, so we had no idea what was going on. But I saw some of Zyuranger, and I realized that there were so many scenes that were cut from Power Rangers, so many things repurposed, so many storylines changed, that I said, damn, I gotta watch the Japanese show. It's very similar to what happened with Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z was super censored when it first came to the United States in the mid-90s, and then when you get exposure to the Japanese version, which is uncut, you quickly flip over. Like, that's what flipped most fans over, was the fact that it was uncut and it was, uncensored, whereas the English dub at the time, not so much anymore, but back then it was very, very censored. So, I want to talk about Zyuranger. So I watched Zyuranger again all the way through in my Discord server with everybody there late last year. Actually, it was actually the summer of last year. We watched Zyuranger, and it was a really, really good time. Most of us enjoyed the hell out of it. And we've been watching different Sentai in there. We watched Ranger all the way through, and in the morning we saw all of Mega Ranger and Gingaman. I actually did a review on Mega Ranger here on the channel, but I never did my review of Gingaman, so look forward to that coming up soon, because I will do it. But Zyuranger was a lot of fun. Now, it's not my favorite Sentai, and I still think that Ranger is better. And I don't want to spoil Zyuranger for anybody who has not seen it yet. And yeah, it's pronounced Zyuranger. J-Y-U is pronounced like Jew, like Jewish person. That's how you pronounce it in Japanese, Zyuranger. So anyways, I don't want to spoil it for those who have not seen it, but there's a major death that happens in the show near the end of the series, about the last quarter of the series, and then the show does kind of slow down. With Ranger, it really didn't, but there were some episodes near the end where it just kind of felt like, okay, let's get on with it. Then you get to the final arc, the last 4 episodes, and it's freaking incredible. What a great finale to the show. And the way they adapted the Power Rangers was, they used the footage, but it wasn't anywhere close to being as emotional as the finale, especially when it came to the development of the bad guys, because Rita Repulsa in Power Rangers is not Bandora from Zyuranger. These are very, very different characters, yo. They might both be evil, they both might have the same minions and all that stuff, but it is not the same, man. Bandora has a much more personal beef with the dinosaurs than Rita does. Rita just wanted to take over the world and conquer Earth and all that stuff, but that's not how it was in Zyuranger, at all. It was much more deep than that. And the storyline between the Zyurangers and Bandora, like, this feud had been going on for a long time, whereas in Power Rangers, you have teenagers with attitude that Zordon found and made into superheroes because they wanted to relate everything to teenagers, whereas in Zyuranger, these are warriors from the distant past that have been frozen in suspended animation and have to be reawakened now to face off against Bandora. So it's a very, very different show. Much more adult. There were a lot of kids in Zyuranger compared to other Sentai, but that's because Bandora hates children, and you find out why later on. It's a very, very crazy character reveal when you find that out. Lance Mysterio Fusion has been doing Mighty Morphin Zyurangers over on his channel. And I want to give everybody a shout out to Lance, the Mystere Fusion. Check it out. He actually watches both Power Rangers and Zyuranger and compares the two. Like, and there's other channels that do it too, but he's doing it like, episode by episode or arc by arc. And you'd be surprised as to how crazy the similarities and differences are. But when it comes to Zyuranger, I mean, had it not been for Zyuranger, and obviously it wasn't even supposed to be Zyuranger. Originally Stan Lee wanted to bring over Sun Vulcan. That was the original idea way, way back. If you watch the Netflix TV show, The Toys That Made Us, about Power Rangers, they go into this pretty in-depth, more than I had ever expected them to do. They even interviewed Toei. I mean, that should tell you something. And so, when it comes to Zyuranger, it was later on Saban tried to get Bioman as Galaxy Rangers to be adapted, and then later on, even after that, he wanted it to be Jetman. But what happened was they had to wait a year. I forget the reason why, honestly, and it became Zyuranger. And I think actually, even though I like Jetman a lot as a Sentai, it's a lot better. But when it comes to Zyuranger, I feel like it worked out better because I think that having dinosaurs mixed with martial arts, mixed with aliens, like, you're talking about all the cool stuff that boys like. Yeah, birds are cool, and Jetman's a great show, and it would have been probably would have been a great adaptation. But dinosaurs, I think, just fits better because you got to remember, y'all, this is the early '90s. Jurassic Park had just come out, the first one. Like, this is like a different era. You know what I mean? And so, with the popularity of Jurassic Park kind of hitting, and things happening like that, I totally think that Zyuranger was definitely timed. I mean, it was definitely a case of right place, right time. That show probably would not have worked any time past the early 90s, yo. I think 80s, yes, it would have, because the 80s is like, was known for its wackiness, Robo-Trek and stuff like that. But I think if you put that show out in like 2005, it just wouldn't have been that much of a hit. It had to have worked in the early 90s. The toys sales were nuts. Like, it's a huge show. But when it comes to Zyuranger, these actors have been celebrated a lot throughout the years. And I will tell everybody to go watch it. If you don't want to buy the DVDs, but you still want to support it legally, there is a way to do that. You can watch it on some streaming platforms. Like, for example, Shout Factory has a site called Shout TV. And you can watch the entire series for free on there. You don't even pay for it. You do not have to pay a penny. You load up Shout Factory, hit play on the video, and it plays in good quality. So, you don't have to even do that. And you can watch all, I think it's 50 episodes, I think it's 50 episodes of Zyuranger. You can watch the entire thing all the way through, marathon it, or once a day or whatever, and it's free. So go do that if you haven't. But when it comes to Zyuranger, it's become so iconic. And in Japan, it's not as iconic because they've had Sentai longer than us. But here it is, because when we think Power Rangers, most people think back to this show. Like, most people. It all goes back to this first season. The dinosaurs, Tommy the Green Ranger. And there's other iconic characters like the White Ranger. But when you think about Super Sentai in the United States, or when you think about these types of shows, it used to be Voltron. I feel like Power Rangers has overcome that. As far as like the 5 heroes going in mechs, I think that Power Rangers is still mainstream. Not as much as before, but it's still there. And it's all because of Zyuranger. It's all because of what Zyuranger did. And so to me, I do celebrate 30 years of Zyuranger today. This is the 30-year anniversary of the show this week, and I wanted to give my thoughts on it without going into spoilers. It's a really good show. It's very dark at times. It's very adult. But the choreography for the fight scenes is incredible. The story arcs. The Thunder Slinger story arc in the middle of the show is my absolute favorite story arc of the entire show. I love the Green Ranger saga in this version. It's 6 episodes and not 5. There's a lot more emotion involved. The entire Green Ranger story arc is incredible in Zyuranger. Way more emotional, way more powerful. I mean, if you love the Green Ranger, the Dragon Zord, you gotta watch Dragon Caesar. You gotta see where it all came from. So, check out Zyuranger. And we'll celebrate that, because had it not been for this show, there'd be no Power Rangers. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.